Hey, this is Chris Miglino. I am at the LD Micro Conference in Los Angeles. I am here with Jason Matuszewski. Not even close, but
not even close.
But he's from Biostem Technologies, and under this ticker symbol
BSEM.
BSEM, and you guys are trading on
Early on the OTC, but we filed a Form 10 to uplist to the NASDAQ.
Good for you.
Yeah, thanks.
So tell us a little bit about the company, what you guys are doing.
Sure. So Biostem's focused on harnessing the natural properties of placental tissue for advanced wound care. So we're treating diabetic foot ulcers, pressure ulcers, and venous leg ulcers.
What's a foot ulcer? You can get an ulcer in your foot?
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know that.
Typically, these are chronic wounds that are found with Medicare beneficiary patients, so folks that are 65 and older. And they're a chronic wound that ultimately comes either on the bottom of their foot or venous leg ulcer, typically found on like kind of the hip down. And these wounds are wounds that won't close with the use of standard of care, so our products come in and support the patient's body to overcome those wounds.
And how does it work? Is it like a surgical device that has to be inserted, or
it's our product is basically harvest a layer of tissue off of the placenta, and then we process it via our BioRetain. It's a proprietary process, and ultimately it's shelf stable and it's a dehydrated product. The product is shipped to the physician, and the physician places it on the recipient upon cleaning up the wound bed. So they'll clean up the wound bed and then ultimately put the product on the patient.
Interesting. Almost like an insert of a sort.
A little bit, yeah.
Well, and then it starts to, and then it just, everything grows in and around it.
Yeah, so the natural properties of placental tissue, it has a lot of growth factors or natural elements that ultimately support wound healing. And those elements elude into that wound bed and help support your body to recover from a wound.
And where do you get the placenta tissue then?
Yeah.
How does that work?
We work with a group of collection agencies throughout the United States. They recover tissue for us. It has to be a successful cesarean section, and it has to be planned. Mom has to be okay, baby has to be okay. We work with those groups to collect that tissue, and we recover it within 24 hours of that planned cesarean section, and then ultimately process it within 48 hours.
And once you get that, how much more tissue can you grow on top of that?
We actually don't grow any tissue on top. No. So whatever we recover is what we actually ultimately process through our BioRetain method, and then ultimately cut into various forms, ranging from 8mm discs all the way up to a 10 by 20 centimeter rectangle.
So does the hospital sell that to you? How does that work?
No, you can't.
They can't sell body parts.
Yeah, exactly. That might be a little questionable.
That's just in different countries.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So
we pay for the recovery techs to be in the operating room to recover that tissue. So
interesting.
Yeah, and so the groups that we work with, it's kind of a circle of life situation, right? Because we have a successful birth, a beautiful baby is born, ultimately recovering this tissue, which ultimately would be medical waste, typically, and then actually processing it through our BioRetain process and applying it to a Medicare beneficiary who typically is 65 and older. So you have this, new life, being able to harvest this tissue and then leverage it into a older patient population.
So this is a sensitive subject, right? It's a very political subject.
Yeah.
It leads to kind of the idea that stem cells and different things can help regenerate for people later on in life. So you're finding yourself in a place where you're dealing with a lot of issues that are at the forefront of medical thinking, I think.
Yeah, I think obviously we don't specifically there's no stem cells per se in our product. It's just the natural properties of the tissue itself. But definitely on kind of a cusp of looking at new medical technology or products.
Yeah, like maybe it's phase one of that conversation becoming much more acceptable.
Yeah, more mainstream. Yeah.
So where are you guys in the process now? What you have the product developed and deployed? It's being used a lot. What's the status?
Yeah, so we started the commercialization process late last year. The current landscape for Medicare reimbursement is through 7 MAC regions. And late last year, we had access to 3 of the 7, and then January 1st, we had access to all 7. We've been a pretty good logarithmic growth rate in the sense of revenue generation. About $41 million in Q1 of this year, about $74.5 million in Q2 of this year. So we're on a really good trajectory this year of our products. Really driven by our...
That's 71...
74.5 in Q2.
In revenue?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, in revenue. Roughly about $6 million in net income. So,
and how many surgeries is that then? Or how many people, what does it cost for each one?
It varies based on size. So it's reimbursed through what's called an ASP, or average sales price, in the post-acute setting. And so it varies based on size of the graft. We offer grafts from 2 square centimeters all the way up to 10 square centimeters. The pricing is per square centimeter, so it kind of varies across that portfolio.
Got it, but a lot of surgeries.
We've provided a lot of product to patients. Our key market right now is the post-acute space, so mobile wound care, podiatry, long-term care facilities, skilled nursing facilities. We're really been focusing on more of the post-acute space, and then we're working towards getting onto contract vehicles to then target the acute space.
Interesting business. And what happens next? What's the evolution for you guys? And
I like to use the story. We have products that service kind of the product of last resort, meaning the patient has to go through standard of care. They don't respond to standard of care, which is typically 30 days. And then ultimately they can use our advanced skin substitute product, our placenta tissue allograft. What we're looking to do is expand our product portfolio across what's called the continuum of care, meaning patient presents day 1, there's a product that provider could put on a patient. Instead of us being kind of the last book on the end of the bookshelf, we want to add more books to our...
Right, well, you probably save them the 30 days.
Yeah, hopefully. Right. Or look at other products that kind of diversify our revenue and mitigate some risk around single product revenue.
Where can people learn more about this?
We have a IR website, biostemtechnologies.com, investor relations tab. As well, we're working on doing more non-deal roadshow activities throughout the rest of this year and into next year. And hopefully talking to more folks like yourself.
Yeah, no, that's the name of the game. You got to get it out there. I mean, You got to tell the story. There's so many unique stories to tell, especially, in the biopharma kind of space. So many unique strategies. It sounds like you're onto one that's generating a lot of revenue.
Yeah.
You're not in clinical trials, and is the business profitable?
Yeah, it is profitable. To address your clinical trials, we are actively running a few random controlled trials. Really, the focus for those trials is actually expanded coverage profile for our products, meaning getting into commercial payer coverage, United, Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Because all of our concentration of payers are that Medicare beneficiary, Medicare group, right? So we want to get into more commercial payer coverage as well. So right now we are running a trial. It's 60 patients, 1 for diabetic foot ulcers, and then 1 we're looking to launch later this year on venous leg ulcers, or VLUs. It's a random site, 10 sites. We're currently enrolling patients in those trials as well. But it's not around for the product to get to commercialization phase. It's more about expanding our payer coverage.
Okay, fantastic. Well, if people want to check it out, it sounds like a very interesting business.
Yeah.
And I think that so if you're doing $74 million in the Q2.
Yeah.
So for the year, are you trending for a $300 million plus year?
I think that would be a little bit on the aggressive side.
Okay.
Probably high 2s for sure.
Okay. So fantastic.
Yeah.
And I guess it's not really seasonal in nature. People need surgeries all the time.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe in the fourth quarter it falls off a little bit because people aren't, there's not as many people getting surgery in around Christmas and the holidays.
Yeah. Sadly, these types of chronic wounds on Medicare beneficiaries are prevalent no matter what time of the year it is, right?
They don't get to choose.
Yeah, they don't get to choose. Your grandparents or your parents or your aunt or your uncle, they bump into something, all of a sudden, boom, they have a wound. Their body can't overcome it. It becomes a chronic state wound. And it doesn't matter if it's Christmas time or whatever holiday you are attending, right? It doesn't choose, sadly. So, but we're excited. We're continuing to kind of really ramp up our revenue, and excited to share our story.
Well, thanks for joining us here today. I appreciate it. Put it on your screen. Biostem Technologies, Inc. Jason, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.